20 years ago, Norco introduced a bike that was built for the skinnies and massive hucks taking place on North Shore's riding scene. This year, they've brought that bike back. Meet the 2021 all aluminum, 180 millimeter travel, 27.5 inch wheeled Norco Shore. This is the first time that our test rider, Jason Schroeder, on the other side of that door, has ever laid eyes on this bike. He doesn't even know what it is. Let's show him.
Oh. Oh, damn.
What up, dude?
It's good. How's it going?
You ready to send it?
Holy shit. Oh, man. Can we get on top of your roof? This is definitely not what I was anticipating. Man, we got pulleys.
Yep.
We got coil shocks.
What do you think that weighs?
A little bit of girth.
Where's the tip in the scales?
I was riding an aluminum bike not long ago. Oh man, I might say like in the 38?
38?
It's maybe a little on the high, but...
Okay. To match the Fox 38 on the front, 38 pounds, 38 fork.
There you go.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is the 2021 Norco Shore. Are you old enough to remember that name? Was that around?
Barely, just barely.
All right. Well, as you can see, it's a high pivot system.
Yep.
But this particular model is 180 millimeters of travel, front and rear. It's got 27.5 inch wheels only. There's no mulleting this bike, okay? Norco says you can't do it. Can't be done. All right?
All right.
Cool. Let's get this up on the stand.
Dude, this new GX crank's a fucking bitch.
Right?
This thing looks so good.
Yeah, it is.
That's the first thing I saw. I was like, what are those?
So I'll give you a second to peruse the part spec.
Okay.
And I want you to see if you can come up with a price figure for this thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good test question.
Yeah, dude.
So this is how it comes spec. With
That
like,
is, yep, that is straight up out of the box. Nothing done.
It's a pretty sweet build. Like you get, like, good brakes, a nice fork. The wheels are okay. Tires seem definitely solid. I'm so afraid to guess something that's just way off right now. I'm gonna say $4,000.
$4,000?
I'll go $4,000.
Okay. All right. Okay.
The Norco Shore is configured one way only and with a clear intention of sending it. To start, the Shore uses Norco's ride-aligned, size-specific geometry. While the frames may not be able to be tweaked via chips and spacers, each size is catered to a specific rider size. There are also the build options. Yes, there are only 3 of them, but each one hits a specific target. The A1, which is the one we tested, has Fox factory suspension with a SRAM Eagle drivetrain, and the A2 uses RockShox suspension and Shimano's 12-speed group. Finally, there is the Shore A1 Park, which implements a longer stroke shock to get 190 millimeters of rear travel, and keeps geometry consistent with a 200 millimeter travel RockShox Boxer, which has the same axle to crown as the Zeb found on the A2.
Cool.
No, but like, I mean, I feel like for myself, I'm on my personal bike right now. Usually I'll not cut costs on suspension and brakes. That's what matters the most for me. And then tires. Everything else, like drivetrain stuff, wears out just in general riding it. So I'm not really looking to like drop all my money on that. These new GX cranks look insane. They remind me a little bit of Shimano flavor in them with like the polished look, but I'm super curious just to pedal a bike with a high pulley. I've ridden a downhill bike with a high pulley in the past, so that'll be interesting. I didn't pedal that thing much at all, but the cable routing also looks kind of unique, like just how that might collect things with time, mud or grit and all that, but I dig that it's polished, or not polished, it's raw, like the frame's pretty clean looking. The logos are clean. didn't really try terribly hard with like everyone's going for like the different padded chain stuff, and that's well, maybe it'll be loud, maybe it won't. I feel like you may get some clicking up in there, but
yeah.
I don't know. This thing had a high shock value when I was not anticipating like everything going on in there mixed with the fact that it's way more travel.
Yep.
I'm pumped to ride a 27.5 bike because I've been on a 29er for like 2 years now.
Okay.
Which, I mean, everybody rode 27.5 before that, so
Yeah.
I think it'll be cool to go back and kind of compare.
Okay. So because it's a Norco, they use their ride-aligned fit and setup guide, which also means that they've supplied a baseline of how we can set up the suspension for you. So it's the fork, obviously, it's a Fox 38 factory, grip 2. Norco is saying that we should have 94 to 95 PSI in there as our starting point. And you can run 2 or 3 volume reducers in there. All right, man. Looks like you got 3 volume reducers in here.
That's perfect, actually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we can leave that.
All right, sweet.
What did they say they recommended for me?
2 or 3.
2 or 3?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Yeah, there were some notes in there if you're an aggressive rider. I was like,
I'm mildly aggressive.
last I checked, this kid did some World Cup laps. He might know a thing or two about piloting a bike.
That was my past life. I'm just a desk jockey now.
All right, so took you up, and then so we're gonna set you at 94 psi.
Okay.
They said between 93 and 94, but let's start it off firm since you're gonna be riding not crazy stuff. Okay, so your fork, we're gonna need low speed compression 11 out from fully closed, and high speed 6 out.
Boom.
Cool.
Sweet.
O'Doiled. All right. Yeah, so rebound. Let's pull the cap there. And low speed 6, high speed 6.
Oh, God. I roll these in right now. What am I?
6 and 6.
Oh, using that. Sweet.
Nice. All right, your rear shock. Compression. Low speed 14, high speed 7.
What do you think about using tools to do this stuff on that shock? Is that bottom you out? Is that?
I feel like I'm used to it now. Like it's been the same for so long. Like the last coil shock I had to use tools to adjust it. So
All right.
I don't touch stuff a ton, maybe compared to some people. I always wonder how much people even like mess with stuff if they're like trying to mess with it or just set it and leave it. I think some people can go down rabbit holes. Other people just don't maybe know enough or, yeah. I mean, crap, that was 14 out, which is definitely like a lot of clicks. Like what's one more out feel like or one more in feel like? I probably wouldn't notice the difference.
Rebound.
Rebound.
Low speed is 12, high speed is 5.
So like, why even have so many clicks? 12 out. What's 0 out feel like?
We can check that out later.
Yeah, right.
All right, so, what's up, Fox? What are we doing here, guys? Let me get you, hopefully,
Oh, whoa.
yeah, hopefully there are fewer clicks.
I mean, at least they put words on it so you're not like
Yep.
head upside down trying to figure out which way's left and which way's right.
Yeah, so that's going to be 5 out. Here, you can use this as a little sticker in the hole and try and spin it around.
So I can feel anything. I don't feel anything.
All right, got her?
Yeah, we're good. I'm going to be honest. I'm pretty unversed in Maxxis tires. I've been a Schwalbe dude for a long time. I have ridden this tire, and it's bitchin' personally, I think, when it's dry.
Yeah.
I rode it in the wet at Crankworks last year, and it didn't feel amazing, but double downs like they're in between, like it's not downhill, but it's like EWS dudes, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like that
Exactly.
gear? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Sheesh.
And Max
I don't
Grip is
need a
their
cush core or anything.
that's their softest rubber. Is
Oh,
Max
sick.
Grip.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's usually what's on their DH
Rad.
casing tires.
Yeah.
All right, since you were on the Coleman stall, I know it's a downhill bike and don't pedal that much.
Yep.
Did you notice drag with the pulley and all that?
I would say I did notice drag, but when you're doing more like quick sprints on a downhill bike, that little bit of loss of input wasn't that noticeable. I never had any issues with like the pulley like gunking up or the bearings going out on me or anything like that. It was pretty maintenance free considering. And I mean, it was dead quiet. The suspension felt like it was just always working. I know the common sols have like such a rearward wheel path that like when you hit things, it almost feels like you accelerate because the wheel's like getting out of the way. I have no idea how this thing rides. I don't know if that's like the whole idea with the pulleys is that. So that I'm actually stoked to ride.
Yeah, and that is the idea behind this high pivot system that they've set up here is that it has that rearward axle path you're talking about. Yeah. It's progressive to the point that Norco has said don't run an air shock on this bike.
Oh wow.
They've said air is not recommended. Coil. So
I feel like that's not a bad thing. I mean, everything about this bike is saying like you should run a coil on it. So I mean, it makes sense. It almost looks interesting, just like not having maybe less gearing on it, because everything else about this bike is telling me to go to a bike park. Yeah. So. Yeah.
All right, dude. So you thought this bike cost how much?
What did I say? 38? 4. I said 4.
You said 4?
I should have said 38. I think about it. Wow, what is it?
It's $51.99 US.
Damn it, I was a grand off, more than a grand off.
You can also get this bike with the RockShox Zeb Super Deluxe and the Dior build kit. So it's kind of like you're switching teams there.
Okay.
For $3,700. And the Park Edition, so that's the Boxer, the 7-speed, 200 mil, 190, the whole Schmila. That's going to run you $4 grand.
I mean, I think that seems pretty solid. Plus, it seems like a bike that kind of how they're speccing different models would be something you could ride on a variety of different terrain. Like if you really wanted to pedal this thing up, like be this your only pedal bike, it could. It also could be your only park bike. It looks more kind of punk rock, like you want to go thrash it around. So it wants to be landed sideways.
All right. Yeah. All right, well, let's get it down. Let's see where you said 38 pounds. I remember that because you said the fork. All right. Okay. And you're going to flex those traps, dude.
Wait, you got to tell me what it says then. Oh, shit, we got to really get up here.
Yeah, you're taller than me. It's useful.
Oh, my God. I'm going to rip my fingers off. What's it weigh? Say something. I'm nervous.
It's hovering most about 39.
39? I was close. I was closer than the price.
It was swinging between like the high 38s and the low 39s.
It was swinging as my muscles were giving up.
Right off into the sunset, bro.
Right off on your
free,
new
Jason,
bike.
You're free.
Feels pretty comfy, actually. Like, for my height and everything. No, it feels like cockpit area, like my body triangle feels pretty good. This thing feels super comfy, actually. Like, don't know how eager I maybe am to pedal it all day, but you know, say you're doing like a shuttle that had like 1,000 feet of climbing, and it'd be pretty rad.
All right, dude. So got your GoPro stuff in here.
Word.
Have fun on your first ride.
Should be good. I'm excited.
The goal was to make a FREERIDE machine worthy of tackling the harsh conditions from which its name was derived. Today, that bike has been reimagined with the same intent for today's rider and style of trails. Grab your Roach pads and baggy pants so we can dig in. In the geometry department, with a minimum 180 millimeters of travel, the 63-degree head angle puts the front wheel way out in front. A 77.7-degree effective seat tube angle on our large test bike is intended to keep the front end in check during climbs, while a 410mm seat tube and 200mm dropper will get the seat out of the way for proper hucks. Compared to the trends of many 27.5-inch trail bikes, the Shore uses, quote, longer chainstays, 445mm on our large. In all, the wheelbase on our test bike comes in at 1,286 millimeters. For reference, Norco's large, extra large HSP downhill bike has a wheelbase of 1270. These numbers had us wondering, would the Norco Shore steer rather than turn? Reviewing the build kits, fixed geometry, and materials selection paints a very clear picture of the Shore's intention. A gravity-fed steep terrain specialist. No doubt that sounds like a riot on paper, but what about in the real world? We were fortunate to have former professional downhill racer Jason Schroeder on hand to put the boots to the Shore. Let's dig into his initial ride impressions.
So, I would say that it was good to ride some actual park stuff this morning. Ride stuff that's, you know, you're not having to try to get the bike up to speed. You're just riding jumps and whatnot. Is definitely where this thing excelled more, and I think it's what they're catering it more towards. Definitely felt super good riding jumps. Didn't really notice it being too long. I mean, it is a longer bike, but it felt pretty stable on all the jumps. You know, in some like the real long sweeping corners was, I would say, where I noticed it the most, just being stable and comfortable. Like dropping down in spring weight helped a ton for the real chunky stuff we were just filming. Not riding on top of the bike and riding a bit more in the travel really helped like feel the fact that, you know, the wheels going back and trying to get out of the way of rocks, staying planted under braking, all that good stuff. Like I don't own a downhill bike currently, and this would fill like a perfect void for that, of something that is going to be fun on jump trails. Doesn't feel as sluggish as a downhill bike, but it's definitely not as nimble as, you know, your more typical trail bike. Weight-wise, this thing's right in there with the downhill bike. So, but like, I felt the weight on this considerably more riding, maybe more like, I mean, the stuff in Sun Valley was kind of, I mean, a lot of it was just moto trails I was riding. So, I mean, it was properly rough and pretty steep, but I felt the weight more trying to like carry speed on stuff. Whereas, you know, riding G19, which is like, you're not having to get up to speed, you're more managing your speed going down. It feels rad, it feels really good.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say standout characteristic is probably just being real stable and like confidence inspiring. Whether it's, you know, riding the jump trails, bigger jumps, looser berms, and then even like on the real rough stuff. It feels much more so like a downhill bike than it does a trail bike in those settings.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what would you say is like its greatest falter?
I would say weight.
Yeah.
Because it's noticeable climbing for sure, and I would be okay with it being a bit more nimble on the descents. Probably weight, and then just the length of it. It feels fine riding it, but it's not the most like, you're not going to be throwing this bike around a ton for the jibaholics out there. I don't know if it's like the bike you maybe want to go with, but if you're trying to like feel comfortable going fast, like it definitely inspires that. Yeah.
Cool.
Norco set out to create a long travel 27.5 aluminum brawler. They wanted to make a bike that would embrace the ethos of freeride and the revival of the movement by the next generation. There are no apologies from Norco on this one, and truly none are needed. Though our time has been brief with the bike, it would seem that the new Shore performs exactly as intended. Keep up to date with our long-term review of the Norco Shore and other bikes by hitting the like and subscribe button. Until then, get out and ride. Sucker!